The video you're about to watch is a non-evidential esoteric remote viewing session that I did totally blind. All that I knew was that the target number referencing it was H3691. So if this is a target that you want to practice on yourself, I encourage you to pause this and come back later after you've remote viewed it. Just a quick note, something interesting happened during the process of filming this target and session. I'd say for the first half of the session, my mind was probably locked onto whatever that blob is in the Pacific Ocean, that anomaly that's happening. And then after a point, it switched over to the actual tasking. And this happens sometimes. Again, I'm kind of rusty because I haven't been practicing as much lately, but at about the part in the video where there's blue lights, that roundabout is roughly where I feel like I got back on task and actually viewed what the tasker told me to view. So at that point, know that I've probably switched over from viewing the anomaly in the Pacific Ocean, that blob, to actually viewing what she asked me to view, which the tasking is up ahead. At the end of the video is going to be an actual feedback session where I go over what I think everything symbolized, what it meant from the following video. So enjoy and stick around because at the end, I will go through what I think it is that I actually saw. Thanks. It reminds me of like a FLIR camera, like strange differences in color. AOL. This does remind me of the ocean blob with the radar screen. This is a lumbering energy. This is a slow gargantuan. This sort of flat, kind of like an oval moving through space. The blue lights just go into it. Data. The orange light leaves after the data transfer occurs, and then the large bulbous eyes, beautiful complexion and face, mesmerizing to look at. Timelines for us, but there's one that is important, and it loops back on its cell of ash and just dark cloud. There is something benevolent to this process, to their study. H3, 6, 9, 1. Initial data packet is an ideogram of bars across a screen. Multicolored. It reminds me of like a FLIR camera, like strange differences in color on a screen. H3, 6, 9, 1. Probing the initial ideogram of the bars. I should say the bars are all vertical, evenly spaced in a pattern. All right, let's start up here. White. Tracing the bar. Sort of tingly sensations like electric or static buzz. This bar itself continues downward, but I only see visually in my 3D mental space like this much of it. Again, I'm seeing those sort of FLIR camera colors. There's yellow, there's some white, a lot of red, and it's all kind of shifting and moving. Target H3, 6, 9. Black. AOL. This does remind me of the ocean blob with the radar screen. It's fun to tilt it. I'm going to try to clear my mind a little bit, get past this AOL. Okay, it's been about 30 seconds, and the next impulse I get is oppressive. Specifically, the black part of it feels oppressive. I don't like it, whatever it is. On the edge of it, on the leading edge of it as it moves, and it does move, there are these thin, gray, dark kind of striations, like I almost describe them like whiskers, or like there's something to that. They're connected to the front of it, and then they sort of shimmer, or like wiggle or wave, like something moving through water. Target H3691. Let's listen for a minute. What do I hear? Water. Rushing. Let's keep probing the ideogram. Still with those colors that shift. Data. Let's start with this. Let's go to stage 2. Let's draw a new ideogram regarding the living essence of this. Target H3691. Clump in the center, squiggly lines, and then a line down. Probing. Black. Slick. Smooth. Long. Flat. Are you living? Why do I always get these old targets? It's alive. It's very old. Yeah, this reminds me of like a you know how some sea creatures, like sharks, maybe turtles, live for a really long time? Take that and multiply it by like 10. This thing has been around. Gray skin for a really long time. It is alive, but the life signature of it is very different. It's very low. Like me, after I've had a cup of coffee, is like, right, but this is like, this is a lumbering energy. This is a slow gargantuan. This is a huge. I had a flash image from above it, and as it's traveling through water, there isn't a shadow, but if there could be a shadow, it's cast very, very widely. It's gigantic, whatever this is. But it's confusing because I also get a life signature of like machine. So I'm getting alive, but at a very strange, slow wavelength, but also machine. It's very one-way oriented, and it's single track minded, if anything. It sort of reminds me of like a program running. It's my kitty. Come here. It reminds me of a program running. Very binary. Let's embody the target. Move to embody the target itself. Large. Slow moving. Move to the center of this embodiment. Its life system, like, you know how you and I breathe? It has a life system, but it's not breath. It's like, it's very rhythmic in a pattern that stays extremely consistent. It's almost like a lullaby to me. It's very soothing. I love it. How do I feel embodying this? I love it. Vast. Wide, vast. With this embodiment, what is the overall shape? Sort of flat, kind of like an oval moving through space. Again, slow and lumbering. Do I have a heart that beats in this embodiment? No. This is feeling more mechanical all the time. Do I have a digestive system that digests? Yes. This is interesting. I'm getting like a hybrid of like alive and not alive, like conscious and unconscious, as in like AI, but if AI could be in an organic vessel, like my brain wants to say like the Austin Powers sharks with freaking laser beams on their head because this is an animal, but it's biological and it's huge, but it also feels like if it had a Neuralink chip in it, like it's got this weird bridge that's occurring between alive and machine. And as I'm embodying it, it's a very simple organism. What is my purpose? I feel like it's just a large vessel that like lays dormant for a very, very, very long time, comes up, and then travels. So it's been about 30 seconds. And the next flash image that I got was of multiple blue lights in a row underwater, aligning with this big lumbering thing. So here's all the lights, and they're used so that this knows where to line up with it, and then the blue lights just go into it. It's seamless. Whatever this technology is, it's perfect. Blue lights. What are the blue lights? So whereas before I felt like the big lumbering shape was on its own thing, the blue lights fit perfectly into it, and they go into it once it's gotten to its other point. Like it gets to a point and then they go in. They're meant to fit in like a key in a lock. It's just perfect. So now I'm seeing as they go in, each of them zips off to a point in a circular fashion within this large thing. And then their light kind of dims out. This is the first time I've seen the inside of this thing where there's like a negative, there's an open space. Now what happens? This is a research vessel. Now that the blue lights are in and dim, they distribute their data. They remind me of computer memory banks. Like they're solid state. There's no moving parts, but they have data. And now that they're all back, the large lumbering thing, where does it go next? Let's start simply. Does it move up or down? Down. So I'm getting this whole story now. My aperture is definitely opening up with this one, with target H3691. Large lumbering thing orients and navigates to the blue lights that are in a line. They merge with it. Then they kind of zip and click into this circular space within the large lumbering thing. The lights dim down. Then the lumbering thing docks. It moves downward and waits. Now what happens after it waits? I'm seeing an orange light come down to it. And the data is transferred from within this thing to this orange light. The orange light leaves. Then what happens? It's like the orange light takes the data, after a period of time, I see the blue lights leaving the large thing. And the process just repeats. So this feels like scientific, like something that is used to study and analyze and survey, and then it takes all of this data. So all of these like blue points of light come from all over the place to this central large lumbering thing. The orange light comes, picks up the data and leaves. And then at some point, the blue lights are free to matriculate and travel out again of their own accord. This reminds me of artificial intelligence. This reminds me of just a program running over and over again at certain set intervals of time. And the large lumbering thing sort of goes incognito when it's resting. And then when all of the blue lights have finished gathering their data, it knows to come up, because they enter it through like the side of it, not the top, not the bottom. There's like something like a semi-permeable membrane that they can slide through that prevents atmosphere or water from going into it. They go in, do their thing, and then the orange light comes, takes the data, zips off. So clearly this is intelligently made. Focus on the intelligence behind this. Give me a minute. So when I probe the intelligence that designed this, by the way, about 5 minutes have elapsed. I get two levels of intelligence. The first level, the closest to it, is like an AI organic hybrid, because I just got this sort of curious kind of head tilt, otherwise expressionless. That level of intelligence reminds me of something that kind of services or maintains whatever this is that's doing its thing. But then there's a higher order of intelligence that is operational. I see blue uniforms that are skin tight with some gold. Not quite a patch, but there's some sort of, like, where the sleeve meets this part of the uniform, there's like a gold thing, like a gold H3691. Show me your face, please. So I get sort of like a Nordic looking face with like blondish hair and human eyes, but they're kind of bulbous and a little bit bigger than mine. And they're at a slight angle. Perfect complexion. Perfect skin. Kind of pointy face, not round, more pointy. Kind of long. Hello. Right now I'm just trying to show it that I'm embodying love and curiosity. What is the purpose of the large lumbering machine and the blue lights? Please. Interesting. I'm being so the word study, but I'm being shown sort of how the hell do I describe this? I'm being shown how their data is stored and processed and read. So it's like, I don't know if these exist, but like a topographic map. But like, okay, if you've ever gone to like a museum or like a natural history or like a nature preserve center, and they have like that, it's like a 3D map, and it shows the actual like to scale shape of things like mountains and ridges and basins and things like that, so that as you're looking down over it, you can get kind of a feel like if you were hovering 1,000 feet above a canyon or a mesa, and you could look down and just see like roughly the whole landscape. Their data is 3D modeled like that, and it's not about landscapes. It blends not only time, so over a period of time, but it blends everything that it studies and surveys: ethics, morality, lifespan, food cycles, pH, water levels, biologic activity, herd movement, everything related to organic living life is all wrapped up in this data packet. Everything is there, and individual components of it can be studied, but I'm seeing that these beings can simply kind of merge with this data, and all of it is understood at the same moment. What do you do with this data? Help life? Are you helpful or harmful to us? beneficial? How do you help us? How do you benefit us? H3691. How do you benefit us? So this is all very visual, and it's hard to put into words, but I'm being shown these strings that all kind of connect to one point, and it's almost like they're all possible futures of our human species evolution, and they study the strings. I'm being shown one string looping back and touching itself previously on the timeline. What is this? What is the significance specifically of this loop back and touch, please? I'm seeing that of all the strings, this is so weird, guys. Okay, before I forget it, before I lose it, this is so weird. Imagine taking the globe and pressing it through like a meat grinder that makes like or like a pasta thing that like makes it into a noodle. So you take the earth and squash it and pull it, and that's what each of these timelines are. And the one that's drawn out and looping back and touching itself somewhere on like the last third of the timeline is the cleanest pasta noodle of all of them. Like the colors are, yeah, what I mean by clean is like the colors are very vibrant. The greens and the blues are crisp and clean and beautiful and sparkly, and luminous. Okay, being of love, of curiosity. How does this benefit you, and how does this benefit us as human beings? H3691. Hello? Hello? That's so weird. I feel like literally whatever connection I had literally just got severed like a phone hanging up. I've never experienced that before in remote viewing. Target H3691. Come back. I feel like, so that connection is definitely gone, and it's not an aggressive or negative thing. It feels more like I'm not supposed to know or have access to that because it would meddle with something. So I'll respect that. I won't probe that any further. Thank you. Sincerely. I'm so grateful for what you did show with me. Thank you. I think I'm going to end it here. I can't seem to connect to that original packet of data. It's almost like the color that was in it just got drawn out and grayed and then turned to nothing. It's interesting. But to summarize, I feel like on a very tangible physical level, there's a large thing that is somewhat biological, somewhat AI, somewhat intelligent, that has a steady state of existence. Um, I almost think of like, it's not mechanical, but it's like how a pulsar or a quasar or a magnetar like has the same over and over and over, and you can set your watch by it, so to speak. And it moves when it needs to, and it's completely like remote. And I get these eddy currents of water above and behind it as it goes. And it's smooth. And the water that passes over it just passes so effortlessly. And when it gets to where it gets to, those blue lights dock inside of it, dim, and there's a waiting period and an orange light comes. Data, data. The orange light leaves after the data transfer occurs, and then the lumbering thing settles again. And the blue lights at some point leave to do more surveys. And there's inorganic / AI intelligence that maintains this craft. But then above that is an intelligence, that kind of Nordic intelligence. Large bulbous eyes, beautiful complexion and face. Very clean, very model-like features, like they're very distinct. Head slightly larger than mine, eyes slightly larger than mine. Pointed face, not round like a moon. Eyes set downward at a slight angle a little bit. Mesmerizing to look at. Whatever those beings are there, it's as if they can model or visualize in 3D space like alternate possible timelines for us, but there's one that is important and it loops back on itself. So it's like it comes, so it's with a bunch of other strands. It's like a bunch of mini globes squeezed into a tube that's extruded. It comes through their technology, is held there, and then only one of them loops back and touches itself again. There's something important about that looping back. And that one is the most vibrant of all. The others look dirty. They look polluted. One of them almost looks like full of ash and just dark cloud. Like fallout. But this one is pure. And I get a very real sense before this sort of connection was severed that there's a life-giving nature to this looping back. There's something benevolent to this process, to their study. It's as if at the right time, certain things are shared with all of us here to ensure that this timeline loops back on itself and is kept clean and good for our benefit. But also, just before things got the color sucked out of them, I got this very real sense that it benefits us, but also they benefit too, because they get better at reading the spaghetti strings of time and developing their own technology. But it's interesting. It's not like a billion strings. There's like a dozen. And there's this one right here that's just pure, the one that loops back on itself. The rest they get grayer and darker. Some of them are just not black, but just totally clouded clouds, like ash, like sooty. Some are, darkened from natural, like disasters, and others are darkened from pollution from us, like smog. But this one strand is so beautiful. It's like I want to embody that strand. Hope, promise, potential. Pure. So this one strand, all of them are dark. There's like 2 or 3 around this strand that are a little bit lighter, but they're still impure. This one is the one. This is the hope. And there's like this loop, this second chance that's being constructed in time by these beings. It's like where the other strands go and terminate. This one is being extruded and pulled a little further and then plopped back on itself, so that once we get to that point, we can continue on and then terminate, or sort of step into whatever the endpoint, the possible future would have been of that strand, and travel through it. Beyond that, I don't understand, but yeah, definitely it feels like a second chance. My emotional aesthetic, how I feel about that strand is everything that is of importance is in that strand. And there's only one. Important. Vital. Life. And then in my mind, the visual of the strand just turns to like a white light and just fades away. I think I'm going to leave it here and go process all of this. Thanks, A. A is a friend and follower of mine on TikTok at Remote Viewing Mysteries. That person tasked me with this target, so we'll see what the feedback and results are. Of course, I'm blind to this target. All I know is H3691. So we'll see if any of this sticks. Thanks for watching. So now that I know what the target was, I'm fairly certain that the roughly first half where I'm talking about some large thing in the ocean is not only, it has nothing to do with the target itself. I think I was locked on to something else, or daydreaming about the Pacific Ocean anomaly, that big blob, that's moving through the ocean. I give that a 30% chance of being at all accurate. It certainly was not on target. After that, though, I think the integration of the blue lights into that thing, for me, how I felt in the moment when I was doing the remote viewing session was like that those were souls of individual people who had lived and died. And what happens was that was the process after passing, where every thought, every moment of your life, every decision, everything is sort of shared with a greater power, and that data is taken from you and then matriculated about throughout the cosmos. And of course, I explained in that remote viewing session how we benefit from this process, but they do as well. So as far as how we benefit goes, I really see the blue lights going into the thing as being more symbolic. I think of it as when we pass, the light dims and we're able to go about that realm for a while, doing what it is that we do after the data is shared with it, and then we can come back and leave and go about on another adventure if we want. The orange light and the next level of intelligence that I was seeing above that large thing reminds me of, I think, what modern day times would call an angel. Although, remember, none of this is evidential. Some of this isn't even my opinion. It's just what I experienced. So take this with a grain of salt. But that intelligence that was just one level above, that was like maintaining everything, including the order of like the blue lights zipping into their place, felt like AI. It felt alive, but not alive. And I personally think of angels as thought forms, and similar to that. They kind of follow certain rules. They can be imperious. They can be very by the book. So that's what I felt there. The higher level of intelligence above that, whatever was wearing like blue with gold, reminded me of, I think when I think of God, I would think that it's whatever those beings were. And I think I was just seeing them the way that my mind was seeing them, the way that it was comfortable seeing them. I don't necessarily feel like that's the true form of God or something like that. But I do feel that everything I mentioned about them studying timelines and getting better at working with them, and we go out as souls and live those timelines and expand the universe, I think there is something to that. I think that the overall message of the timeline, the one pristine timeline that's folded back on itself, is the message per the tasking, a joyous message of hope, that there's a second chance. That in the moment when I was seeing all of this, I felt like, are you going to be the person that contributes to the fallout, the fog, the dark clouds of the world, or are you going to be the one that contributes to the pristine nature of the world, to the vivaciousness of it, the light of it, the vibrant coloring of it, right? So in my mind, I saw that one timeline that folded back on itself. There were beings that kept going on the original timeline to a point that ended, and then there were others that got to sidestep that and follow this loop of a timeline towards a more pristine kind of existence, whatever that is. I don't know. And it was interesting when the color faded out of everything. That was my cue that it's time to stop, because I'm not going to get anything more from this, and I'm not supposed to. That's what it felt like anyway. I find it interesting that because I didn't know what the target was, and I'm supposedly remote viewing heaven, that I came about it as if like an autistic scientist. I'm autistic, so I have the right to, but like an autistic scientist who like stumbles into heaven and is like, hello, with my clipboard, and like, hello, I bring love and curiosity. What are you? What are you? What are you? Like I used a lot of symbolism with the blue lights and the orange light and the 3D topographic map. I did have an emotional impact from this, which was I felt like coming home. But moreover, I felt more like a scientist, like studying something and, ticking off boxes. I was very formal about it, which is funny. You'd think that if a person walked into heaven, that they, would be overcome with emotion, but it was very different. It was very by the book for me. Now, there were moments where I felt mesmerized by the beauty of these perfectly sculpted faces that I was seeing. There was one moment I didn't get a chance to convey in the remote viewing session where the first face I saw, it almost looked like it was peeking out at me. Oh yeah, the head tilted its head out from like the side of a doorway or a wall or something, and was just looking at me with this sort of like, what is the word? Inquisitive, curious, slightly mischievous. It was having a fun time and deeply observing me. All of that in the same moment. So this was really interesting. So my final takeaways are the second half of the session, starting from like the blue lights moving forward. I give that, of course, this is not evidential because it's an esoteric target, but that felt the most real. The first half of it with the blob and the ocean and stuff, I don't know if any of that's true. It was very intellectual. It was very flashes. So it could all have been imagination, right? What I learned from this, and if you're a remote viewing student too, maybe a takeaway that you could take away from this is give yourself time to clear your mind before starting. I had just gotten off of TikTok and was watching things, and one of them might have been that anomaly in the ocean. So, your subconscious is interesting. It parrots and it mirrors things that come into its perception. And in this case, it's sort of halfway through the session, sort of blended the anomaly and the lights. And I feel like where the meat of the truth is with the lights. So take that with a grain of salt. Take all of this with a grain of salt. For me, this is just another chance to practice and to enjoy myself. But how did it feel? It felt like we're being given a second chance, and that there's something much greater than us that loves us and that is benevolent, is very ordered, precise, like a key in a lock, precise. I don't know if you guys remember back in like high school, like scientific notation, when you had to do like calculations for chemistry, and in the equation it was like, if in the word problem they gave data that was, up to 3 places after the decimal, that was how far you had to round your answer to. Heaven is the answer never rounded. It's just zeros all the way to infinity. Or in other words, what I'm trying to say is that the precision regarding the level of perfection of how things felt there is infinitely perfect. It's as if it's a process or a feeling that has just been infinitely rounded off to perfection. To, if there is error in it, it is beyond comprehension. There is no fear, there's no loss, there's no pain. It was just a vast, vibrant, colorful expanse. And I get the impression that when you're there, to a certain degree, it looks like whatever it is that you are thinking it should look like. It's very interesting. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching.